What's happening, fam? We are back with another deal breakdown. I am Charles, the A to Z one man band wholesaler. Been doing this for a few years. I do everything from generating leads, marketing, closing, dispo, the whole king caboodle. My counterpart, my brother Chris. Tell him who you are.
Yeah, my name is Chris. I live here in North Dallas. Unlike Charles, I just do one part of the business, and we enjoy it that way. So all I do is dispo, nationwide dispo. And today we have one of my acquisition partners who locked the deal up in San Antonio that we're going to talk about. But yeah, I'm all dispo. I'm direct to wholesaler, as you'll see. I work with really great wholesalers, and we're able to make a profit. So that's what we're going to dive into today.
Perfect, man. Well, we've got a special guest who obviously has done a deal with one of us. And if you've watched this before, you probably know who he did a deal with. T7 John. What's happening, brother? How you doing today?
Hey, I'm blessed, man. I'm good. Life is good right now. Got a couple of deals under contract, working on some more. So I'm very, very fortunate. And thank y'all for having me on your podcast and also your IG live stream. Thank you.
Sure, for sure. Appreciate you being here, man. So we always like to kind of start with a little bit of a background. So how did you get into wholesaling? What were you doing before wholesaling, and what led you here to this wonderful niche of a business?
Yeah. So prior to this, I was working on flips before getting into acquisitions. I was very familiar with flips because of my friend Sergio Gamboa. Very, very prominent figure in terms of he went from flipping homes to building homes. So that was my introduction to real estate, was through him. He's a very private person, but whenever it came from that, I got into acquisitions only a few years back, 2.5 years back, with the company. And that time, I think in, 2 years ago, 1.5 months, I think we generated $105,000 in gross revenue. So it was good. It was really good during that time. So that was my little bit of a background. Prior to doing anything with real estate, I was a project manager for a company called Oracle. Yes, I was in the cloud division of the IaaS and PaaS. So it's a lot of facilitating, understanding things, breaking everything down, and putting it all back together with legal reps.
Got you. Very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, people come from all different walks of life and end up in wholesaling and see how it can change your life. It doesn't matter what you did before. It doesn't matter where you're from. But just for the people that may be looking for T7 John at some point, where can they find you? Where are you located right now?
Yeah, good question. So right now I'm located actually in Austin, Texas, but then whenever it comes to social media and stuff like that, you just can follow T7 Homes or T7 Invest, and then it's going to show John Evans underneath there. If you want to reach out to me about anything pertaining to legal documents or understanding how to read certain agreements, we love complex deals. That's all I really focus on.
Yeah.
Funny. I'll double back on that real quick, and we'll get through the deal, and our audience will see it from this deal. But yeah, John, he can work through some of those complex issues. And for a newer wholesaler or just a wholesaler that's not put in the time that John has, this is a perfect resource for you. This is a team game. And when you run across those deals that need an extra push or need an extra skill set, John has proven it, and we'll see it on this deal that he's proven it, that he can work through that. So I just wanted to make sure that we heard it from me. I've seen it. He can do that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your input. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, man, let's get in this deal with the people are here to hear about. So, John, where did you get this lead from? How did you generate it? What marketing strategy? And how did you end up with this contract?
Sure. So first breakdown, I got it from a referral. The referral came from a friend of a friend, like 3 friends down. Yep. And they said, "Hey, I know somebody that's in a not in a desperate, but in a tough situation, more than a desperate situation, and they have tax issues." So whenever it comes around to the tax issues, they were behind for almost like 5 years or
Yep.
something like that. So they're like, I don't know if you can help me. I don't know this. And I said, look, set up a consultation with me. And that's what I call my stuff. Because I take pride in what I do. So
Yeah.
a consultation is very, very important to understand the full gist of what is going on with the deal and with the person.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
Okay.
And so the way that we handled it was first understanding the situation, which was there was a house, back owed taxes. The house was never transferred over. So I made sure by what? Using the CAD files. If you use the CAD files itself in any county, it's going to tell you if that person that is the next heir is actually on that deed. And so when we saw that it was underneath the actual mom's name still, we now know how to move forward and say, hey, we got to get this transferred over to her name. But in order to do that, guess what? Who are the next heirs in line, right? And that's where we have to understand truly how many heirs are we dealing with. So it went from thinking that we only had one to now we have two. And the sisters, they didn't like each other. They hated each other.
That's always a good, a fun situation when the siblings don't like each other. So I've got a couple of one quick question that I'm going to try to make sure we're on the same page. So, you said this is a referral, which if anybody's ever had a referral, those are some of the most powerful deals, best deals. How did your friend know, right, that you were the person to send their friend to, right? Like, what did you put out there? How did this person know, hey, John can help once they heard what their friend was going through, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. What happened was they literally just said, hey, there's a guy that I know. He does flips, but then he also helps people out whenever it comes around to getting them out of tough situations. How did they know that? Was I had to build the trust with that client. They didn't like me at first. They didn't even really care to want to get to know me. But you have to continue to try to build a rapport. And the only way that you can do that is understanding this, which is knowledge, one. Yeah. And then the next, you have to have this communication, verbal communication. If you don't have it, you're not going to win at it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that goes to show, man. I mean, this is something that Chris and I try to impress upon new wholesalers. You got to be loud about what you're doing. You have to let people know what you're doing. You've obviously created this. Even if it's just with the people right around you, right? You put yourself out there as, hey, I flip houses, I help people in tough situations, and because you're willing to do that, he brings you a deal that you end up being able to help somebody and make some money as well. So I love that, and I'm amazed to hear that. So it sounds like you've got a house that's got.
Hold on, Charles, because I want to go back before we get too deep. I just want to go back to where you said you're calling your calls with the seller a consultation call. Yeah. And it's because you said you take great pride in your professionalism and the services that you bring. But the way that you frame that, it changes the frame of a seller dynamic, right? You're no longer chasing them as most wholesalers do and begging for their business and, please take my offer. What's your highest? I'll go up 2K. Yeah. It's a consultation. You're qualifying them on if you want to move forward.
Correct.
Depending on whatever factors you have. But I just love that you're changing the frame of the negotiation. As opposed to you chasing, it's now you got to get qualified to work with us. And so that's beautiful. I didn't want that to go over people's head. But yeah, continue, Charles.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because most people just call it a sales call or let's hop on the phone. But a consultation makes it seem like it's serious and legit, which is good. I might start doing that myself, honestly. With it. But no, I just want to kind of make sure on the same page. So you've got you got this referral that comes in. And it's a back taxes and a type of probate kind of estate situation going on. So somebody has died. Sounds like one of the sisters is living in that house now, but it was never probated to her. So now you find out, okay, not only are they behind 5 years on taxes, which is exactly when they start coming after you, after 5 years generally, right? Yeah. And we've got another sibling that is technically going to be a partial owner in this house. So, am I right? Am I on the right track here?
You're 100% on the right track.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So you figure all of this out, right? And you say, I'm assuming you say, okay, this is too much. I don't want to do this anymore. And you run away, right? That's how it goes down.
No, I never do that. I have to see it all the way out. I don't operate like that because whether if it's good or bad, I just know that I just think about it like this. If you have a family member that's ever been in a position that they have a hardship, would you want to just bail on them? The answer is no. So I approach it just like that. But with the knowledge that I know now, I try to make sure that I treat it just like if it's like a family member of mine, like an aunt, an uncle, even my mom. But, thank God my mom was not in that position. So, I would never let her get to that position. But whenever it comes around to it, you just kind of like want to treat it like if it's a family member that you care about. And so that's what I did here. Whenever I was talking to you about this, and, you can tell me whenever, just to hold off. But this is how it goes. From A to Z was this. The first part you were talking about it. The second thing was this. I had to show her how my business is legit. Remember how you asked me, hey, how do people know how this and this? Well, I literally had to prove to her with my LLC documents that I'm in good standings. And I sent her the link to show that I'm in good standings. Yeah. She can believe that I was legitimate. Yeah. And so whenever I showed her that, she was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know. How do I know this? How do I know that you're not going to take my house from me if I sign documents? Yep. So I literally had to go from this. I said, let me ask you this. What is it that you need from me? How can I actually position it to where I can be somewhat of a servant? Mm-hmm. See, I use the word servant, and most people say servant. Why do you want to even use the word servant? Well, people think about it like you're coming with something to where you can provide a service, but a servant is a person that serves the people. Yep. So that's what we do, is serve the people. So I was telling her, I'm an advocate for you. We're going to try to get you as much money as we possibly can, but then you have to be realistic. Whenever I actually went to that house, though,
tough.
It was, man, anybody that lives underneath those conditions, you might as well live underneath the shack. Because it was tough because the rodent feces, it was bad. So, and I just tell you this, I have kids underneath that roof too, because she had like little ones. I was like, dude, I got to help her out of this position. Yeah. That's what we did.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've all seen it. It's like you really realize the conditions that some people live in when you get into this business, because it really is kind of crazy. It makes you want to help even more. But how did you end up working through the first the estate thing, right? Because you can't do anything until that's handled. So how did you build some rapport? You showed her that you're legitimate and that you're on your side and all of this, right? Right. So how did you go through this estate process to make sure that title was actually clear for you to for you to be able to even pay off the taxes and get a sale going here?
Right. Good question. So I told, the way that I approached the situation is I told her very simple that, hey, the way that we can help you is if we get started on the process. I can't start on the process until we actually put something together that's getting towards a contract type of phase. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of, I had her son particularly, man, that guy, he was like, don't sign anything, don't do this, don't do that. All the people that are naysayers that have no entitlement to the property, but they want to control the deal. Yeah. And so I said, listen, I want to help you, but at the same time, I have other people I got to service as well. So whenever it comes around to all the deals that I'm facilitating right now, I said, I'm actually spending the time to where I can walk you through all the steps of what we can do and how we can be of service to get you to either an affidavit or a probate. But in order for us to do this, we got to go ahead and put an agreement in place. She was very, very against those rules, let's say that. And then I said, okay, well, there's nothing I can do. Time went on. It took like about an extra 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks for her to come to her senses. Yep. She said, okay, let's go ahead and put something in place. Gotcha. Put it in place, and then after that, she felt that she deserves more, and just like everybody does, I said, "Man, we got to reduce the price." And that's whenever I told Chris, he's like, "Just put it under contract." That's what Chris told me. Chris like, "Put it under contract." I did just whatever you do, just put it under contract. We worry about all the rest a little bit later on. Just put it under contract, and that's what he told me. And so after he said that, I knew that I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go with Chris's vibe because I like Chris. And I felt something real with him versus all the other people that I've dealt with before. And it was like, he's like, just get her under contract. Got her under contract, open up title. Then from there, after you open up title, now I started working on the affidavit. How did I work on the affidavit to answer your question, Charles? Versus this. The affidavit itself, I had to get her and any other possible siblings that is through the bloodline stream of the actual family tree. We all understand how that works, right? So it's just like a hierarchy. So where does it go with you? So is it your mom and your dad? Did they have any kids outside of the relationship, or did they have kids only with each other? And that's what I had to decide. Whenever I figured that out, it was Belinda and Bertha. Belinda and Bertha was the only two people, and I use their actual name, but I didn't say the last name. It's fine. I used Belinda and Bertha, and they were the only two. Thank God. It could have been worse. It could have been 20 people. So whenever that happened was this person that I was talking to named Belinda, she was like, I don't even think I should get anything. I don't know if I am or not because of the taxes. I said, do you trust me? She's like, well, you're earning, and she's like, you're earning my trust right now because I wouldn't sign with you. I said, okay, great. Trust me, whenever I take care of the situation for you, you're going to probably be walking away with the most out of anybody. She did not believe in that. So what happened is what? You have the sister, you have the sister, and you have her. That's 50-50, right? So what happened is I talked to the other sister because the other sister wasn't talking to the other one. And I told her this. I said, hey, look, I know this sounds crazy, but your sister has been putting in all the work to maintain this house, even though the house has not been maintained.
Right.
And then whenever I said that, I said,
yourself living there.
Yeah, exactly. And then I told her very simple. I told the sister this. I said, listen, we can go about it to where you can say, hey, I want 50-50. But honestly, do you honestly believe that you deserve 50 whenever you haven't even lived or been at that property in the last 12, 15 years? And they said, well, I deserve it because this and this and this. Next day she gives me a call. She's like, you know what? You're right. I haven't been here through this whole process of time like the way my sister has. So I'm going to sacrifice and just get 25%. So I told Belinda, I said, hey, your sister said, hey, she's willing to give 70, she's willing to give you 75 and she only takes a quarter. I think that's a very fair take. You might as well go ahead and act upon this because you don't know how she's going to feel the next day. So whenever I said that, she was like, okay, I'll do it. And whenever she signed on there, we started working on the affidavit, paperwork, taking care of all the business like that. It costs, a good amount of money. If you do the affidavit, it's fairly inexpensive, but the probate side is what costs the most money. So whenever it comes around to
quick question, John. Quick question: how did you get in touch with the other sister? Did Belinda give you the number? Did you have to skip trace her? How did you find her information in order to even talk to her?
Yes. So what ended up happening was I used the software to actually locate her. Okay. And so the software itself, I don't mind sharing it. It's IDI Core. It's a very good Bible source, especially whenever you want to do expanded searches. So it does cost more. It's just like Tilo. Y'all know what Tilo is, correct? No. So it's along those same lines of that. And that's how I found her. And then I was starting to reach out to her, text her, communicate with her, seeing if we can actually help something out and work with her.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. ID Core for anybody that needs a deep. It's kind of like a deep skip trace. They're gonna find them, right? You're paying more than 10 cents, but they're gonna find who you're looking for.
You pay $1.75.
Yeah. It's 20 times the price, but it's still not that bad, right? So, but yeah, okay. So ID Core helps you find the sister. You talk to her. You convince her, or really just show her the light of what's been going on, and let her decide, okay, I'll take 25%. So Belinda can actually walk away with some money here. So now she's on your good side, and the sister obviously appreciates what you're doing. Can you explain really quickly for the people that may not know what that affidavit process looks like? So did y'all have to actually do probate, or did y'all get it done with affidavits?
So initially it was supposed to be done with probate, but we were able to see how title was going to accept it. So whenever we found out that title said, hey, we could go through the full probate, you could go through the full probate, but we possibly can run it by, I guess, their underwriters.
Yep.
See if they will accept on the affidavit of heirship. They accepted the affidavit of heirship instead.
Which is, guys, that is a massive deal over
Yeah.
Yes.
4 months. You know what I mean? Affidavit of heirship may take a week to get what you need. So what all did you have to accomplish? Did you just have to get this signed by the two sisters, or what did you have to get signed to complete the affidavit process?
Literally hand and foot. One person was disabled, and so when I mean by disabled, she can't leave the house. I think she's more along the lines of bedridden. That's for Bertha. Belinda, she didn't have a car that functioned and run. Right. So what we had to do was pick her up, make sure her ID was right, make sure that, you know, she had all the paperwork. So whenever it comes to the actual paperback hard copies, for us to turn them into title, showing that these are the vital statistic reports of their parents passing away. Mm-hmm. So we had to do all that by picking that up. And then whenever it comes to all the signatures that needed to happen for the affidavit, I had to pay for it, or not me, but my company had to pay for it out of the pocket of T7 Homes. Mm-hmm. And so whenever it comes around to it, the mobile notary person, like for business that he had to take, was not free.
Nope.
Somebody has to pay for it, right? Yep. So if you want to get the deal done, you're going to do it by any means necessary. And it's not going to matter about just the deal and the funds, but it's just about how committed you are to your client. And so since I was already committed after Chris said what he said, he's like, just get it on a contract. I was like, man, I'm not going to be the one that gets shown out and say, oh, Chris, well, you almost had it, but we didn't have it. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be like, dude, I'm going to show you why I'm going to be here to stay, and we're going to do longevity business. So it's by any means necessary.
Let me pause you real quick before you go on, Charles. I just want to go back to a couple of different things that show how you separate yourself from being a top tier wholesaler. So first off, you have the two sisters that don't want to communicate with each other, which these are some of my favorite deals, whether it's the divorce family or
I love when I want to talk.
Because you get to show, one, your skill set, and two, you're dealing with two different people. So you're truly juggling personalities. You're trying to get someone to pivot just a little bit. You're trying to get someone to pivot just a little bit until you can get them to a 75-25 split or whatever it is. So that just shows your sales skills and your rapport and your ability to negotiate with people. And then you're talking about one seller is disabled, one seller you got to put in your car, a driving stranger to this. You're putting money out of your business's pocket before you even know it's going to sell. Mm-hmm. This shows, and we go through it all the time, that if a wholesaler makes a commitment to a seller, they need to go as far as they can to make sure that happens, that they live up to their agreement. They need to exhaust everything that they can to make sure that they live up to their agreement. Their name is on that paper. They should do everything they can to make sure that happens. And if not, you need to be as honest and transparent with your seller. Get out as early as you can so you're not wasting anybody's time, because wholesalers view most of these deals as transactions rather than people being involved in them and real lives being affected. So I just want to commend you on that. And then I'll go real quick to me saying just put it under contract. It's not as willy-nilly as it sounds, because and I truly believe this. And I knew John working with him. I truly believe this, that if I'm under contract with a seller or somebody who I know is as qualified as John, I am totally okay figuring out the facts later, getting under contract with that seller, because I know how much John is going to care for that seller, and I know how hard I'm going to try to get that deal sold. So I'm more than okay with going under contract. You can picture me and the seller, or John and the seller, getting a canoe on the pond with the seller, rowing out to the lake, and nobody else is now able to talk to that seller. John, that seller in a canoe. John now has her full attention to take care of her. But we know John is a top tier individual, so he's going to go above and beyond, as he's shown, to get the deal done. I wouldn't just tell that to anybody. Just get it under contract, figure it out later. But if it's someone who I know can get the deal done, we'll figure out those details. Let's not wait for her to do the affidavit, and then in the meantime, she's getting 12 other calls every day. Let's get in the boat with her. Let's row out to the lake. We'll figure everything out. We'll have a nice private conversation in the middle of the lake. But let's get off of the dock and get out of there. So yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah, kudos for sure. Yeah, John, you're going above and beyond. I love hearing stories like this, because this is what people need to understand, that this business is really about. Like, you're gonna have some deals that are just roses and butterflies and there's nothing that happens. But there's a lot of deals that are like this where you're going to have to go the extra mile to get it done. So at this point, you have picked up sellers, gone to seller's house with a mobile notary. I mean, taking them. So in North Carolina, when I've had to do this, each sibling had to get 2 people that was not related to them to sign this affidavit, right? To confirm, yes, this is this person's daughter, and yes, there are no other siblings besides the one that we know about, right? So is that similar to what you had to do?
That's 100%. You're hitting off the charts right now of all the questions so far, and you're no, but you really are. It feels good. First of all, I'm just going to say this before we get into that. It feels good to be around like-minded people. It's hard in the industry to find like-minded people like yourself, Charles and Chris. It's very, very hard. Everybody is there for the payout, but nobody's there to break down everything. So moving forward, as what you were just saying like this, yes, you're right. There is an affidavit of heirship. First, you have both of the siblings to sign. Then after that, they each have to have 2 witnesses itself. So what happened was the next door neighbor signed. She got that to sign. And then one of Belinda's friends from like 9th grade or 10th grade, and she's like 50-something years old. She signed on it. And she had a car, but I don't know why she couldn't drive her around, but she had a car. But anyways, make the long story short, yes, she signed off. Bertha, it was her nephew that signed off, I believe, on there. And then also it was, I don't want to say her cousin, somebody else, one of her family members signed off. But they signed on there just because everybody then knew that it's already coming full circle. And what really let me tell you this, what really put fire underneath their tail?
What?
They received something from Bexar County that stated that, hey, we're going to be putting a tax sale on their property.
Yeah, this thing's
whenever they got that notice,
yeah.
Can we come? I don't know. I don't know, but I really need to. And then they just started like, hey, we got to work this out. Like, no more fighting, no more this. And then after that, it was like full game. And then even to the end, she was just like, oh, well, I don't know. And she was just being very difficult. But go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, so you've gone through, this, a lot of wholesalers would have stopped here and either try to let somebody else handle the probate or given up completely on it, right? I've gotten deals from people that just were in this situation and just didn't know what to do, didn't want to try to figure it out and let it go. But you're like, as you said when we first got on here, you're a problem solver, man. You want to figure out a way to get this done. So you do whatever it takes to get this affidavit signed. We got everybody's signatures that we need. Now, are we already engaged with Chris on this? Do we already have a buyer? Like when did Chris besides like telling you like, let's go ahead and get this locked up so we can help these people, at what point did you say, all right, Chris, let's start working on the dispo here?
Good question. So what happened was initially I gave Chris the dispo and it was for a higher dollar amount. Yep. And I remember whenever he said, hey, well, he thought the condition was better. But then whenever he looked at the actual picture, and he's like, there's no way that you're going to get $105,000. I think it was $105,000 for the house. He's like, there's no way you're going to get $105,000 for the house. Yeah. So whenever he said that, I had to go back and talk to Belinda and Bertha about a really tough conversation that they just didn't want to have. Yeah. And, by that time, we were looking, and I'm going to be real, we were looking for other people that would accept it at the 105, and nobody was going over there. As soon as they were running in, they were running out. Yeah. As soon as they were running in, they were just like, no, I'll go to the next, because it was too much work at that price point. Yep. So when they were coming around to it, I had to be real about the situation. And then, Chris was being real with me the whole time. He's like, you can't sell it at that. You cannot sell it at that price point. So where it comes around was how to talk. We renegotiated the numbers down. It took a little bit of time. I think it took, by that time, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, like a few weeks to get that done. Yep. And then after that time, I said, hey, Chris, I got them on board. I'm not trying to go with anybody else. Let me go with you. I got it down. So what do you want to do? And then that's whenever you told me, you're like, okay, I'm going to start sending people out there. And then, we had lowball offers. initially.
Where'd you renegotiate to? Where did you start and where did you renegotiate to?
Right. So we were at 105 for the property itself. Okay. And then whenever it came around to everything as a whole, we ended up just to sum it up, I think we were at the end of the day, by the time, I'm just going to say the final number after back, forth, I think we were at like 55,000, if I'm not mistaken. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it was about $55,000 that they were at, and that's a far cry. They were asking 105.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it. You're going down 50%, but you're saying that your house is worth that. Not whenever you need foundation, not whenever you need siding, not whenever you need trims, not whenever you need everything. The whole house needs to be ripped down to the frame because that's how bad that house is.
Yeah, yeah. And look, this goes to show how no way you're getting that reduction if you haven't been putting in the work that you've been putting in to help them, right? They had to respect the fact that we're helping them so much they were willing to go down literally half the price that they were at, $50,000, leave it on the table, not leave it on the table, but setting their mind at a different place because that's where the house needed to actually be sold. So kudos to you for showing them and building enough trust to be able to do that. Now we've worked through the probate situation or the heirship situation, right? What do we do about the taxes? How much were the taxes? Was their balance going to be able to pay off the taxes?
Good question. So I didn't know until we actually signed the exact number. But if y'all want to know what suggestion or tactic I use in all the deals that I deal with taxes, and just to remind you, this is the first deal I did with y'all, but I've done several deals outside of y'all, of course, in Houston and San Antonio, and that's pretty much it. My two sectors, and New Braunfels as well. But what happened was this is what I always use. Whenever I was talking to Belinda about it, predominantly more than Bertha, I said, listen, you already been receiving these letters for the last 5 years. You haven't been making in any payments itself. You're so far behind that you don't even know where you're at. But I'm going to tell you this in itself. God forbid, and I use these exact words, God forbid you don't want to listen to me. You don't want to sign with me. You just want to keep on living here during all the circumstances that you're dealing with and no AC in the house. And this is Texas. And you have a hoarder house, which is even worse. And you have fans blowing in hot air. So anyways, I said, if you were to allow the city to go ahead and do the tax sale, this is what's going to happen to you. And, it's going to happen because it always happens this way. So your house you're going to get a letter. And I already told her what she was going to get before she even got it. So you're going to get a letter. It's going to tell you a tax sale. And then the tax sale itself, you're going to probably have like a few months, whatever time that they give you. Then they're going to give you the actual date that it's going to be selling or that's going to be auctioned off. After that happens, what's going to happen is you're therefore going to have to pay whatever that person bid up on that deal. So if T7 Homes bought it on Bexar County from Bexar County, it's going to be like, hey, instead of me or her possibly getting $55,000, she and I bid up and I'm at $30,000. Well, I'm going to pay $30,000 for this home through Bexar County. Then based upon that, me buying that, there's a redemption period because we're in Texas. Based upon the redemption period itself, the judge can rule it within 3 to 6 months that they have to actually give you the funds, or they have to give you the funds plus interest. Do y'all understand how much interest that would be? 20% minimum. So if you're at 25% of $30,000 and they can't even afford back taxes, what makes you think that they're going to be able to actually get themselves out of here? So that's how I approached it with explaining it to her to let her know what the outcome would be. And then she's like, I don't have 30,000, more or less 25% of 30,000. And I said, exactly my point. This is a way out to where you don't have to worry about that and take care of your back taxes. And hopefully it doesn't go retro. Retro means goes all the way back whenever the parents passed away that was on tax exemption, right? So now we're getting some real knowledge in this because tax exemption is whenever you're over 60 plus years old. She was only 50 something years old. So she didn't even meet the criteria of that. So sometimes, depending upon what title company, they're going to make you go back and whatever that taxes that, like it goes, once you go through the affidavit of heirship, the taxes will go back up to the normal because you don't qualify based upon that age range.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense, man. So you obviously have a lot of knowledge about the tax situation. You talk her through it. You let her understand that, hey, working with us is honestly going to benefit you because you can walk away with little to nothing if you let this happen this way, right? Now, Chris, you've gotten this deal. John has sent it over to you. He's working through, getting the affidavits done. He's working through getting the tax situation explained. When you get this and it hits your inbox, what are your next steps to make sure this gets sold?
I look at the pictures and I say, yikes. We got our work in front of us. So this is on the south side of San Antonio. So a little bit underdeveloped, more side of the hood. Mm-hmm. And so we know what we have. So one of the first things I do if it's in a market that I'm always in is I'm signed up on a bunch of higher quality wholesalers buyers list. So I want to see what they're also sending out in that zip code around that area just to kind of gauge where the market's at. Yeah. So I do that. I see some people selling properties that are close to this because, it's that kind of neighborhood. So I see where they're selling at anywhere from 60 to 80, depending on the condition. So that's my initial read on it. We go and comp it. I think I'm at like 180, 190 ARV, maybe a little bit more, but it's a 3-bed, 1.5 in the hood, and I'll show you what it looks like.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that we do.
This is always fun, seeing a look at these things, man. All right.
This is our home. It's nice and beautiful. You can see the neighborhood. So not terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not in the nicest part of San Antonio. Okay.
Right.
And then we won't show you the interior photos, but you can see from the outside what we're going to have on the inside. Hoarder home, hard to walk through. People have been here for a while. So we're looking at, let me try to remember what I guesstimated at on repairs. So we have a 1,300 square foot home or 1,500. So I'm probably around 60K rehab minimal, but probably much more because we're going to have to do plumbing, foundation, everything. So we did the way that we start our marketing is first we hit our repeat and VIP buyers. So we sent it out to everybody, got an initial read. Same thing we already knew. Hey, don't buy in that area. A little too rough for me. Crime's too high. That was most of our feedback. We got a couple low ball offers, 50, 60, 40, 35, and we knew it was going to be tough. So we ran through all of our VIP and qualified buyers, no real strong interest. Did our mass blast, had some interest, but nobody near the number that we wanted. So the next thing that we did, and let me back up. This is my dispo manager, Luke, doing a lot of this outbound work. The next thing that we did is we began to hit up realtors. Kind of our next resource is realtors. And so Luke connected with a realtor. Yeah, so we've already sent it out to all of our buyers, mass blasted it. The right buyer didn't pop up. Now we're going to realtors. And we had the perfect realtor. He had an ideal buyer that just missed out on an opportunity in that area. They went and walked it. And again, this is a hoarder home. So they went and walked it. They sold maybe 30% of the home because, as John said, you couldn't really get to every room. And we've sold not plenty, but we've sold a handful of hoarder homes.
Yep.
Buyers have to use their imagination. You can tell them as much as you know about the condition. They can determine, worst case scenario, but some of these rooms they're not even able to see. So they have to run off, what they think might be there. So that realtor brought us a great buyer. He added his fee on top. We sold it to him for $70,000, a $15,000 assignment, which was fantastic. And then we just waited till the closing day, right? So in the meantime, John, you're helping the sellers move out. I don't know if you want to touch on that, but he's already gone the extra mile, and then he went another extra mile, and now he's going extra mile.
Man, ran a half marathon on this deal, huh?
I'm telling you, the full marathon. So
and
then the extra stretch at the end.
So we get the buyer under contract with the assumption or not, I'm sorry, not the assumption, with the explanation to him, hey, we're going to work with the seller to try to get some of this stuff out. As
Right.
you know, Mr. Agent, and your buyer probably knows, these hoarder homes are never cleared all the way out.
Right.
So we're going to do our best to help the seller get everything out and see where we're at closer to the closing date. So in the
How much
meantime,
time do we have here? Like from when y'all go under contract to when we were supposed to close, how much time do we have there?
probably like 2 weeks, a week and a half.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks.
Initially, it was supposed to be 10 days, but then they went over the time, talking about on the seller side, not the buyer side, but the seller side. Of course, you're dealing with a person that has issues with getting rid of things.
Of course.
Rid of things. That is not, nobody should have some of these things that they kept. But you got to do what you got to do. And what I mean by that is like, just say that Chris is being very, very nice by not showing y'all the pictures, but just to use your imagination. The worst of the worst is what's in that house.
Yeah.
The worst of the worst is in that house.
Yeah.
So John, real quick, just explain how you were helping them, because you got movers, right?
Yeah. So what ended up happening was she didn't want to move anything. And then the same people that was talking crap that she ended up helping out financially after all this was said and done was the same people that, let me tell you how this story went. And I'm going to keep it within 2 minutes of what happened. She has a son. You remember the son that I told you that I didn't want her to sell, right? Well, check this out. This guy went into, what do you call those? Wherever you're like bipolar crazy, and then you have to have those things against you or something like that.
Schizophrenia. Something.
Yeah, schizophrenia. Yeah. So he was schizophrenia, and he went into the whole thing for a week, and so she didn't have any,
Well, mental institution.
Yes, mental institution. That's what he went to. He went into a mental institution place, and based upon that, as he went in there was nobody there to help her out. She was saying. And then her kids, they wouldn't help her out, but they were talking crap. And so whenever they came and helped her out, I saw whenever one, and Chris sends me a text, and whenever he sends me a text, he's like, hey, how's the moving process going? And just I'm looking at it like this on my phone. I'm all like, oh, man, let me check. And then to remind you, I'm in Austin. And so I was like, man, let me check on this. And I had a friend that actually go to the place, and they're like, John, you're not going to be happy. I said, what do you mean I'm not going to be happy? It was like 5 bags moved, but remember, you're dealing with a hoarder, so that doesn't take even a dent out.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So lo and behold, I went through that week coming up, and then I told one of the people that I work with, and I do helps me to get some of the deals and stuff. I said, hey, we gotta shop up our boots. We gotta just help them out, show them that we care, and that we gotta be there. I went masked up, gloved up. And I went for like a half a day just to help her out, just to show that we care. And all I just was doing was organizing. The thing about it is what you're going to learn about every single client that we're talking about, I don't care if it's just one or any client itself, is accountability. A lot of these people itself, it's very hard for them to be accountable for their actions. This is the reason why we help them out. It's so we can get them to the finish line and show them why we will hold ourselves accountable, because they don't have that in them. So that's what happened here is I went and projected helping her out. My friend helped out. And then after that, we went through like a half a room, and I was like, dude, there's no way we can do this crap. And I was just like, dude, it's like I have other deals that I'm working on. And I was like, I'm spending my time over here. So I said, hey, I called Mark, Mark's Movers. That's the name of the company. Hey, can you come over here and help? And then they're like, well, our fee is going to be this. And I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, if you want us on the short notice. Next thing you know, 3 guys come over here loading up stuff. And then she's like, oh, I don't want these papers. I want these papers. I don't want this. I want that. You know where to go. And then they're like, they told me this, Mr. Evans, is going to cost you more.
Yeah. I've been in this exact situation, bro. So I know exactly what you're going through here.
I have PTSD right now.
So it ended up happening just like that. And I said, look, no matter what, for the next few days, we're going to just do all we can. And that's what we did. We did for the next 2 days. All we just did was all we can. And I just said, whatever it costs, send me the invoice, send me the bill, I'll pay for it. And so whenever that happened, all the stuff was moved out of there as much as they could take. And then I even had a dumpster to show up to get rid of half of the trash, but it was like a small little 10-footer. But I got hooked up on that for only $350. But whenever it comes around to the other part of the actual moving the shit into the excuse my language, moving the stuff into the storage, I was like, dude, this is unbelievable. All the stuff that she kept, guys, listen to me. The china cabinet set that she kept was chewed out by rodents. It was already, and I'm not talking about one china set. It's like 15 pieces. And she's thinking that these are valuable. She made the guys take a piano that has never been moved, that had rodent stuff all over the top and everything all over it. And it was really, really bad. So at the end of the day, it was this. After we got done with all of that, I said, there's no way we're turning back. I said, guys, make sure the first day and I'm sorry, guys. I'm just letting y'all know. I'm saying I'm sorry in advance because I told the movers, I said, make sure the first day you make sure you take the bed. You take all the bed, you take all that stuff like that, because I don't want her to go back and think like, oh, well, I have time to sit here, lay here and think about it. No, you can leave the couch, but you take the bed. And that's what they did. So after that was all said and done with, we're getting to the finish line. Then next thing you know, I get a call from Chris, and then he's like, hey, how's everything going? And I told him, I was like, everything's looking good. He's like, send me pictures. And I was like,
nope.
I was really like, in my mind, I was like, oh, I don't want to really send him the picture right now because it's not fully done. And I was like, they're working on it. And he's like, come on, say, we need to see the picture beforehand. So what happened was this. It was a little bit of delay on the picture time. And then we got to the closing table. Whenever we got to the closing table, the lady put in the, she signed her docs, we signed ours, and then Chris signed his, but then there was a delay on the payout. Then she didn't believe us that we were going to give her money because there was a delay. Yep. And this is the part that me and Chris never really talked about, but she was calling us like every day until she got her money. And then she's like, after the end of the day, after everything, she didn't even say one word of thank you. And I don't expect people to say that all the time. And then we helped her out of a situation that had tax issues. She had no money. And then she ends up with, I think after taxes and everything paid off, she ended up with $33,000, $34,000 by herself. And then her sister got her money. But there was no thank you from any side. So don't expect a thank you. What it is you do your job. You do it to the best of your ability, to where your credit and your name speaks louder than anything else. And whenever I teamed up with Chris, I'm going to tell you this right now. His actions, his actions are exactly what I was hoping for. Mm-hmm. That 80% of these wholesalers that talk a big game, they're not about that. They want to pull up, act like there's something that they're not. And all he just does is just get to work and be about his business. Yeah. So whenever it comes around to every single person on this actual IG Live, I just got to say, it feels good to be around people like y'all, because there's so many people in this game and they don't know what to do and how to handle situations.
That's true.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
That's true. Well, man, this has been an incredible deal, man. I mean, it's one of those that you'll never forget. When I tell you that I've been in a very, very, very similar situation a couple of times. So I know how this can go. And, it kind of sucks when you don't get that thank you, but you know that you did what you had to do and you really helped them out at the end of the day. And so you feel good about it and you know you did the right thing. So kudos to you, man. Kudos to you, Chris, for getting that deal sold and, getting it sold for as much as possible, right? Because you went through a lot of buyers that were not interested to find the one that was willing to pay the most, which is what you want out of a dispo company or a dispo partner, right? So before we get out of here, man, I just want to know, what was one thing you learned from this deal that you'll never forget and that you're grateful that you got to learn from it? You can go ahead and start, John.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris, for giving me the floor. Excuse me, Charles, for giving me the floor. So where is that is this. One of the things I'm very grateful for is just the process of teaching patience. This one, I've had other deals that I've made, like it took a little bit longer, but I've made probably like 60 grand on a deal before. And all I got was gratitude from it. Like, thank you so much, John, blah, 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 this, I thank God for you. And I thank God for your company. But this one was the opposite. This one was, it taught me patience. It taught me you have to be a little bit forceful in terms of getting things done and being productive with your time. And then also dealing with the right people. And what I mean by dealing with the right people is I'm very fortunate that Chris came into this deal. That's all I got to say, like in terms of that. So patience is key. Understanding is too. And then also being educated to where you can rebuttal off of anything that the client may tell you. You have to be that way. You have to. So it taught me all these things that I have to use, all these elements itself. So the number one thing that I just wanted to say that I learned from this is be patient, understanding, and educated about everything that you do with real estate, especially with residential homes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Shout out to patience, something we all need a lesson in every now and then. Chris, what did you learn from this, brother?
Yeah, I'll go off of what John said. It's so easy to differentiate yourself as an average wholesaler to a really great wholesaler like John has proven. Now, I say it's easy because everything that John learned, or at least for the most part, information is everywhere. You can find this information. You can learn this information. You can get the skill set that John has. That's the easy part. But then the hard part is you've got to put the effort in. You've got to go out and find that information. You got to be vulnerable and be dumb for a little while and ask questions and fail forward and make those mistakes.
Yeah.
But you also have to, and what John is talking about, you have to have the patience because it takes time to develop that skill set. It's not fun your first 6 months when you're just talking to a lead. You spent 2 hours on the phone, then you figure out they were asking retail and you didn't know to get off the phone within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But you got to go through that and you got to take the time and be a student of the game and go out and find that information, because when you do, John has added tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, to his bottom line because he has an extra skill set that can get him to the finish line on these deals. That skill set, going deep on your niche, whatever it is, will make you so much more money. So that's what sticks out to me is that, again, we have a wholesaler who has differentiated himself by developing his skill set, spending time in it, and going the extra mile to take care of these people like it's his family. So that's what sticks out to me, and it's why John is doing the deals that he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say something very similar. I mean, just the perseverance and the persistence and the genuine want to help. That's what stands out to me the most, man. Those are the, like I said, a lot of people don't get this deal done because they don't know what to do, number one, and they're not willing to do. Even if they do, a lot of people know what to do and they're not willing to do it, right? Because they expect this to be easy. So just your perseverance through this, both of you guys, because a lot of dispo people would have said, hey, no way we're getting that number, so good luck, right? A lot of dispo people are not going to send this out to everybody in America and do whatever it takes to find that buyer. So just the perseverance from both of you guys and the willingness to go that extra mile and run that full marathon to get a deal done, man. And this is what the result is. You make $15,000. You've helped multiple people. You helped two sisters, one of which was in a horrible living situation, one of which probably could use an extra $10K, right? You helped a buyer that just lost out on a deal. You helped an agent prove himself valuable to a buyer. I mean, so many people were helped in this, and you get to make a profit, which is why I love this business so much, because you really do get to help people by making money. It's crazy. So yeah, man, congratulations to you guys. Kudos for a strong performance on this. And yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on, John. This is a powerful deal. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
No, as I said before, I watched y'all before, and I ain't gonna lie, I was like, hey, I would love to get on this on this ID live. And I was like, this will be pretty cool. But then I never really exposed myself out there like that, because for me, it's just more like I've always been taught, like, you do a lot of business, but you keep your mouth kind of closed. Yep. So like whenever it comes around to it, we do a good amount of business itself right now. And we're only really going up with it. And I do want to say this real quick before I exit off, or before, y'all keep on talking or whatever. But I just say this. The best person that I found throughout this whole thing, and not the best person, but the best people I feel like that are around you are like-minded individuals, as I said before. And by me just being brief with talking to you before we actually jumped on this live, Charles, I felt very strong that like you have your focus point very well. You're very well fundamentally sound in your patterns about how you go about things. And then whenever it comes to Chris, I feel like Chris, we're going to be probably doing way more deals. You already have another deal that I gave to you that I need help on, and then also I got a couple other. I got a land deal, and then also have this other pre-foreclosure that's happening on August the 3rd. Is in a rough neighborhood, and I hate to keep on giving these rough deals, Chris, but it's going to keep on happening. So like whenever it comes around to it, guys, like I just say this: whoever's watching, if it's 120, I don't know how many people is watching, but I just tell you this: the perfect people that you align yourself up with, it has product and knowledge of what we do, and I don't mind sharing that. Whenever it comes around to sharing the dollars, that's how it's supposed to be, anyways. You don't have to take the whole thing. Sharing the dollar amount is only just showing you what the value of that other team member can bring to you. So for me, I think more so about that, and that's how y'all should think about it. It's not about just getting the dollar, getting the deal, because the way that you can open up your pipeline is similar to what we do. We do August and September in terms of pre-foreclosures, and then any organic leads that come in as well on top of that. So we try to work those 2 months, because guess what? 1 month is the right now month, which is coming up in August. The other month is to build what? A rapport. So whenever you build a rapport, they're going to want to go with somebody that, guess what, builds that rapport with them, versus somebody that's trying to come on a month before saying how much you can help them out with. Yeah. So this is where I say this platform itself is for people that are strong-minded, and the way that y'all handle things, I always wanted to be on this, and I want to say y'all, to both of y'all, thank y'all for allowing me to be a part of this, and I hope y'all have a good one, and I guess that's all I can say, man, but thank y'all.
Nah, absolutely, man. A great deal breakdown, man. I think you gave the people a lot of good information, John. I appreciate the kind words. I'm sure Chris does as well, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again here soon based on the deals that y'all are working out, man. Really appreciate you.
Definitely. Y'all take care.
Take care.
All right.